And I'll just do an intro. This is Fam Electric Ghost, and we have Rick Life on it for I think like the third time, and this is really cool to talk to her in 2022 to see where she is on her work, and we're going to talk about her new EP, Liberty Life.
Yeah, thank you for welcoming me for the third time.
But it's pretty cool. I think we were talking about your EP, and it's got like 5 songs. It's got Real, On My
Yes.
Way, Cheers, and Orinari, No Answer, and We Are. So maybe you can start. Like I think you said it came out last month,
Yeah.
and maybe talk about the process that it took to get to this.
Yes, sure. Yeah. So I collaborate with the two rappers. Their name is Yona and NGS,
Mm-hmm.
and they're from Okinawa, Japan, and I'm currently in Tokyo, Japan. And I've been a friend with Yona for maybe more than 1 year.
Okay.
And I got to know him by Instagram by chance. And then the beginning of this year, I heard he made a kind of rapper unit called LNS. He said the name of the LNS is coming from Liberty Non-Solid.
Okay.
And he said he made a unit with his friend NGS, and they were looking for like a new producer or a beat maker.
Mm-hmm.
And then so I I just said then let's work together for their first EP through the beer, the texting each other.
So did you all
And
do it all online, or did you actually
yes,
able to meet, or you did it all online?
so for planning until having recording, we just had to keep communicating with online, and I made 5 beats for them. And after they really liked what I made, so they decided to come to Tokyo to record together. So we booked the studio time for 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
So we working for the 5-song recording in 2 days.
What studio do you use in Tokyo?
It was in Yoyogi, kind of nearby Shinjuku. It's really city area, but called the Noah.
Yeah, I used to live in Tokyo. I used to live in Mota Azabu back in 2004 near Roppongi. So I kind of know where Shinjuku I actually. This is Fam Electric Ghost, and Newsly is an audio app for iOS and Android. It picks up web articles about the most trending topics on the web at any given moment and reads them to you in a natural human voice. So for the first time in history on the net, the web becomes listenable. Browse articles from topics you choose and start playing, stop scrolling, start listening. They have podcasts as well, so explore trending podcasts from over 40 countries. Our podcast, the Fam Electric Ghost podcast, is on there too, so download and use Newsly for free now from www.newsly.me. So that's www.newsly.me, and that's NEWSLY, And so use the promo code GHOST2021 and receive a 1 month free premium subscription. So like that's a pretty cool deal. So all you got to do is use GHOST2021 and you get a 1 month free premium subscription to Newsly. Check it out. You'll like it. I listen to it every day and it's really great. Thank you. And keep on listening to Peg and everything else on Anchor FM and Spotify podcast. Thank you.
Hello.
Hello, we're back.
Hello. Oh yeah.
So I'm making sure that's not on my side too. I put on. I'm actually going off my LTE network just because I'm not sure if my Wi-Fi is causing the trouble. So I switched to like a phone network.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah,
But
hopefully I
yeah,
never.
I just
Yeah,
decided, well,
no more.
maybe it's on my side too, so I don't know.
Yeah.
So I
Okay.
was saying, like, I kind of know where Shinjuku is because in 2004 I lived in Tokyo in Motoazu,
Mm-hmm.
which is like in near Roppongi.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Um,
That's really cool. Yeah,
yeah, I was
Roppongi is a
actually
really cool place like that too. Yeah.
yeah, I actually was working like downtown. I
Mm-hmm.
was I'm an IT guy, so I'm a techie because I'm a synth player. I'm into
Mm-hmm.
like
Yeah.
tech, and I love going to Akihabara, going to all the I
Mm-hmm.
used to go to like all the synth stores down there and look
Mm-hmm.
at the Yamahas and the Rolands and all that stuff. But
Oh, that's cool.
but yeah,
Mhm.
so you were able to do this collaboration. You guys liked each other.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Had they found your music and they got into you because they heard you already because you had been published, or did you already knew Yona?
Uh, actually, there's a mutual friend
Mm-hmm.
between me and Yona, and he introduced me about Yona. Then that's why I got to know.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like I think it's really interesting all these online collaborations that people are doing because what happened with Corona. Like a lot of people had to do that. Like I've
Yeah,
been
yeah,
in heavily podcasting, and I've actually connected to like lots of different musicians worldwide.
yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, is there a plan for you guys to like try to tour this, or because the way things are, you're just gonna have it on the net? Or are you gonna try to do any shows or anything?
Well, actually, they already start having a live performance in their local area, which is Okinawa.
Oh, cool.
And they try to expand their fame, and then uh, they try to be famous in Okinawa first, and
Hmm.
then maybe they can expand to the other area of Japan, maybe Tokyo. They can come to Tokyo to do live, but first they try to do in their local area.
Would you ever want to perform live with them?
Yeah, yeah, sure. Yeah, if they come to Tokyo, I like to see their performance, and then I'm just a producer for them. So
Okay, so you
yeah,
wouldn't
one day
try
I
to.
like to see
So
their performance.
yeah, it was this interesting because as a producer, sometimes we could go up with like an MPC or like some kind of MIDI controller
Yeah,
and
yeah,
kind of DJ. Not
yeah.
that you're
Mm-hmm,
gonna
mm-hmm.
sing, but maybe you could kind of live DJ a set with them, which would be
Mm,
kind of
yeah, yeah,
cool.
yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know how to do DJ, but just I want to see how they perform with
Hmm.
my beat. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, if you
it's
use
one
the
of my
tools,
dreams.
yeah,
Yeah.
if you use the tools like that you use to create the beat,
Mm-hmm.
maybe you could do the beat live. And that's all I'm saying.
Ah, yeah, true. Yeah, that
Yeah,
it's gonna
there's
be
a
a good idea.
yeah
Yeah.
yeah it's just a cool way to do stuff because some producers will do that. There's a lot of tools out there like Akai Forces and Akai MPCs
Mm-hmm.
that you could have all the clips from your
Mm-hmm.
song like on the pads, and then when you
Mm-hmm.
play live, you could kind of rearrange where they occur
Mm-hmm. Oh
instead of
yeah.
using like a CDJ. If you use like an MPC or like
Mm-hmm.
something like an Akai Force, you could have all your clips for your song, and they have like arranger modes, so you could have the
Oh.
whole song in arranger
Mm-hmm.
mode and then have 8 rows of clips that maybe made up that song. And you
Mm-hmm.
could change the order live, just to mix it up if people wanted to freeform. You know,
Oh, that's cool.
it's a cool.
Actually, it's not like a beat making live, but
Mm-hmm.
I have done with performing live through the with using my beat. Like
Oh,
uh, at the radio station,
mm-hmm.
one of um one of the musicians invited her radio station in Japan,
Okay.
and she is and also singer. And then at the moment, I prepared kind of sample like a simple jazz beat
Mm-hmm.
for the radio program, and then during the radio, I play the beat and I connect to the MIDI keyboard.
Oh, cool.
So I play the piano improvised
On,
version,
on
and
top of the
also
beat.
yes, yes, yes. I mean, I already typed the beat before the radio start, but
Okay,
at the moment of the during the radio,
that
I
was
connect
live.
to the MIDI keyboard and play the piano at the moment, and also she played the violin.
Oh, that's nice. Did
Yeah,
you
yeah,
ever
yeah.
did you record that? Do you have a recording of that?
Actually, it was a live like live cast, so we didn't record, but I still have a video.
Oh, you have the video.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah. It depends if the audio is, you could maybe kind of try to remaster it from the video if it
yeah,
was
yeah.
good. If it depends the quality that came out. Because if it's not
Mm-hmm,
good enough, I can't capture it and redo it. But
mm-hmm,
yeah, that's a really cool technique. Because I used to when I first started playing, one of my techniques was to use sequencers with
mm-hmm,
like real live synthesizers like Juno, and
mm-hmm,
Modes. But
mm-hmm,
there's another technique where you can actually use like a Zoom or a Tascam,
mm-hmm,
and you could actually record your whole song, right, and have them on tracks.
mm-hmm.
And Nine
Oh.
Inch Nails, one of their techniques is one of their techs, one of the members of the band actually has a Tascam
Mm-hmm.
multi-track for all the
Oh.
Nine Inch Nails songs, right? Then
Uh-huh.
he runs it through multiple effect pedals. It's the original master,
Oh.
and then he mutes
Oh.
and unmutes tracks,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Oh,
when they
that's
go to
really
play
cool.
live, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
he mutes from the actual Tascam, the
Mm-hmm.
original master, but then runs it through effects processors that can actually change it live. So he has this like big
Oh.
board of effects, so he actually can change what it sounds like. So he had the original, but he can either go with the original or kind of destroy it or change it,
Mm-hmm. Oh.
live on demand. And he figured
Yeah,
out how,
that would be fun. Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of a cool way of taking something that is the original song, but you
Mm-hmm.
heavily can modify it live.
That's gonna be fun. Yeah. Like
Yeah, that's a fun.
original or more
Yeah,
original.
yeah. Then you can
Mm-hmm.
change it. Not like having a sequencer. You're actually using the real thing, but just running it through like effect pedals or effect processors. Which can
Mm-hmm.
really depend on what type of effect you can actually put like a big LFO delay in, and then I could stretch it out, or
Mm-hmm.
you use a delay or use a scatter and it scatters it out, or there's like
Mm-hmm.
phasers and stuff that you can bring in. There's lots of cool stuff that you could do. If you think about the sound design of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, listen, I'm a very experimental artist. I'm always looking at
Mm-hmm.
things that you can.
Yeah, I
but
can try. Yeah, yeah, I would like to try. Yeah.
but see that you got this EP.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you wanted to focus on that, but you also talked about like it's not only life, but you had Odo Be.
Yeah, I think it's Odo Be.
Oh, okay. So
I don't know.
maybe
It's from the African language.
okay.
Yeah. So about the Odo Be, I collaborate with the independent artist from Ghana, Ghana,
Okay.
Africa. Yeah, and then uh, actually he just got signed with the Universal Music Group,
Oh,
and
cool.
then so when he released his new album via the major label, he reached me out. The he was looking for the producer to release his new album.
Mm-hmm.
So and he asked me to make such an Afrobeat.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I sometimes listen to Afrobeat hip hop, but I never made it before
Oh, you never did
until
it.
he asked me. So it was my biggest challenge.
Was that hard? Because I mean, you into it, but did you have to kind of learn how to play it? Yeah.
Yes, and then the most difficult thing was like I also make a reggaeton beat,
Okay.
like a
Reggaeton.
Latin pop
Yeah, that's
style.
cool. Yeah, I like that.
And for me, the Afrobeat and the reggaeton beat is kind of similar. So
Yeah, yeah,
I was struggle with how to distinguish the
yeah.
difference between two of them,
It's
two
kind
of
of subtle.
genre.
Yeah, it's kind of subtle. You have to kind of
Yeah.
probably really focus on it,
Yeah.
and then kind of find out where the subtlety is. It's kind of like when you're doing
Yeah.
like different types of jazz. Like you got
Mhm.
like beat, cool jazz, and that somebody could think they're doing bebop and they're actually not doing it right,
Yes, yes.
because like you think they got it because they listened to one bebop record, but they need to probably listen to like 10
Yeah, yeah,
to
yeah.
kind of get the feel of like, okay, this is really what it is.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
but
Yeah, it's kind of like that.
yeah, it's just I
Mm-hmm.
find it like when you're trying to learn a genre, because I've been getting
Yes.
really back into new wave, and so I was
Mm-hmm.
going back and listening to like Depeche Mode
Mm-hmm.
and like Joy Division and The Cure,
Mm-hmm.
and I actually really liked Joy Division. And Joy Division's kind of pre New Wave. It's not
Mm-hmm.
exactly New Wave. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of because it's a lot more guitar than synth. If you listen to Joy Division,
Whoa.
there's not as much synth in it, but it's very
Mm-hmm.
sparse, and it's kind
Mm-hmm.
of like it's kind of like really not highly produced, but it
Mm-hmm.
kind of got like a punk feel. So it's kind of like
Mm-hmm.
post punk with
Mm-hmm.
some keyboards in it, and it's not as
Mm-hmm.
heavy. It's not as like synth heavy as you get to like The Cure or New
Mm-hmm.
Order. Then there's a lot more synths going on. And
Oh.
I decided, look, I kind of like the Joy Division feel because there's like not as much
Mm-hmm.
keyboard and there's a little bit more guitar. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like I like that, so I kind of working on this new album called Trash Wave, which is a
Oh.
combination of new wave and punk.
Wow, that's
Kind
interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of it's inspired by like Joy Division and like the Clash.
Mm-hmm.
Take a
Wow.
combination of like a punk band,
Mm-hmm.
like the early Clash when they're really heavy punk, and then mixing it with like something like Joy Division. Um,
Oh, I see. Yeah, I'm gonna check your new album.
yeah, I've got a brand
Yeah.
new album coming out pretty soon, like on the
Oh,
26th.
really?
Yeah, I
Oh,
got
that's.
something called Peg Forever. It
Oh,
comes
I'm
out.
excited.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, it's like say an hour and a half long. I'm kind of crazy. I mean, my songs are too
Whoa.
long. My
Oh,
albums are
I
too
see.
long. Yeah, I'm kind of from the old era, like Yes and Genesis, and the old electronic music. The albums go on forever.
Mm-hmm.
but but that's that. Yeah, I'm a child of the '70s. I'm 54, so a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the stuff I was into was based on like Peter Gabriel version of Genesis, and they would have songs that go like 15 minutes. You know,
Oh, wow.
you're like yes, you mean yes, I could have a whole album where one side is one song, like a 22-minute song. You're like,
Whoa.
yeah, it's just
22
the old.
minutes. It's
It's the
like a classical music.
Yeah, it is. The original progressive synthesis music is very long. Some of the
Wow.
songs, the minimums are like 7, 8 minutes. I mean, they're very long, um,
Wow.
and they have a lot of changes. They are
Mm-hmm.
like classical. They have like movements where they'll change
Whoa.
key, they'll
Mm-hmm.
change rhythm, they'll
Mm-hmm.
change the timing.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they're like
Whoa.
multiple songs strung together. They're like a suite. So they're
Wow.
actually been built from like four separate songs that are brought together with a theme.
Wow.
Tends to be the structure of old progressive music. It's like multiple songs, and you
Mm-hmm.
kind of hear like Paul McCartney on like Abbey Road is kind
Oh,
of
yeah.
considered to be one of the first progressive
Mm-hmm.
musicians because Abbey Road has these little a bunch of songs
Mm-hmm.
that are kind of tied together as separate songs, but it's one song. That's kind of a
Mm-hmm.
progressive rock technique that
Mm-hmm.
McCartney was really into that.
Mm-hmm.
He do it in Wings too. Like if you hear a lot of Wings songs, they're like that. The same kind of structure. But
Mm-hmm.
I kind of deviate. But so yeah. So since the last time we've met, you've been working on collabs a lot.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so how many collabs maybe since the last time we talked have you been doing? You've been doing a lot of work. I mean, I'm seeing.
Yeah, actually, I still cannot reveal the new information. I have so many new information that I cannot reveal yet.
All of it.
But
Yeah,
so
maybe.
far, like I can say two more new collaboration are
Mm-hmm.
coming, but I
Wow.
cannot say when.
Okay. Yeah, but it's cool that you're working, that you're actually getting
Yeah.
connected. That
Mm-hmm.
people are finding that your work is interesting, and they
Mm-hmm.
want to work with you because you've got some really cool ideas. And I really like your aesthetic. I like your style. I like the way you put your songs together,
Thank
and
you.
the fact that you're willing to go into something
Mm-hmm.
uh, like the last song you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
That I think that as a producer, like I called my music expansive sound because I didn't want to get pinned because the people brought me to a club and said, "Oh, are you EDM? Are you trance? Are you trap way?" Or what? I said, "No, I'm expansive." They, what's that? I said, "Well, it means everything." Because I don't want to get pinned down. Because I don't want to get thrown on a trance stage when I'm not doing trance, right? You know, because like my stuff, I have some songs that are trance, but I have a lot of songs that are like more punk. So you put me on a trance wave, a trance stage, is like, and then I start doing a punk song. People are like, "I don't like that."
Yeah.
You know, so it's kind of like it's cool to be kind of all over the map, but you know, when you get marketing, people want to throw you in a lane. Do you find that you do you like to have like your music considered to be one genre, or do you like to be like, if someone can ask you what genre you are, what would
I
you
can
say?
say I make multiple genre,
Yeah,
but recently I focus on of course hip hop, but you know hip hop has many genres, so I focus on uh, old school
yeah,
like a boom bap,
yeah,
and also I can say R&B style hip hop.
yeah. I
Since
kind
I
of like,
make a
yeah,
jazz, so jazz and R&B style match together and works well. And also I'm working on some pop music
oh,
too.
yeah. So you're trying. Well, the
Yeah,
pop is like where you really break through. You know, because that's got like the biggest audience because it crosses like multiple lanes. Um,
mm-hmm.
it just seems like today, like pop music does take in stuff from hip hop. It takes in dance. It takes in rock. So when you get like a top 10 hit, it has a little bit of rock, a little bit of hip hop, a little bit of R&B. Like kind of like
uh,
it seems like a little bit of a hybrid. Like when you look at some of the producers that are hitting like number
mm-hmm.
one songs, it's
Mm-hmm.
like a little bit of a collision of certain things.
Yeah, yeah.
Have
Recently, yeah, these are not much boundaries between pop music and the R&B and hip hop rock. Like a pop music, becoming like a
more hip
really,
hop.
yeah, more hip hop, yeah, close to hip hop.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
they'll have people actually rap it. You know, you'll have
Mm-hmm.
a song and then suddenly somebody comes in as a feature and they actually do a rap.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah,
like, so that's not exactly pop because you're actually having a rap vocal,
yeah,
you know.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's got a lot of hip hop influenced stuff, which is really cool for me because I
Mm-hmm.
think, you know, hip hop. One thing I like about hip hop is like, you know, because I was talking about like these album ideas, right? Within the
Mm-hmm.
hip hop genre, you get people like Tyler the Creator, Earl Sweatshirt, you know, Kendrick
Mm-hmm.
Lamar. They can get people to buy a whole album because
Mm-hmm.
they have themes, right? So it's not
Yes.
just like one song. If you
Mm-hmm.
listen to a Tyler the Creator album, like
Mm-hmm.
Igor or some any of the albums he does, it's like it ends up being like you want to hear every song because it's
Yeah.
kind of a concept, you know. It's like
Mm-hmm.
Kendrick Lamar. He makes albums that you consider not. I'm not just going to hear one song. We're going to sit down and listen to the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And rock music kind of went away from that because there's not as many people willing to do that. And even
Mm-hmm.
pop music, not you know, people will listen to one song, but they might not buy the whole album
Yeah, yeah,
unless you're like Mariah Carey or something. But you know, it just people will say, "Oh, you can't do an album," but then you see like in hip hop, people are able to do albums. You know,
yeah, yeah,
so it's really to me as well. It depends on if you write an album that's interesting enough that people would buy it if it's interesting. You know, if you
mm-hmm.
could if you could do something like the you know Queen Bohemian Rhapsody,
Mm-hmm.
everybody loves that song even now. Like so, if rock music went back into stuff like that, people might be
Mm-hmm.
willing to listen to a 7 minute song.
Mm, yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, because if you think about like Hotel California, Bohemian
Mm-hmm.
Rhapsody, they're very long songs, and people would tell you you can't do that. And at the
Mm-hmm.
time those songs came out, they told them they couldn't do it, but
Mm-hmm.
the audience liked it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So when somebody tells you you can't do a song that's more than 2 minutes, it's like, well, it depends on if it's interesting.
Yeah. I feel like the old famous song, even they have like more than 5 minutes,
Yeah,
people still like it. And
yeah,
then I realized that these days the music the length of the music getting short.
yeah. It's very short, and
So
I understand. Yeah, I've kind of rail against that just because I'm from the era where I like the longer songs.
yeah,
And I my minimum songs are maybe 4 minutes, and that's still kind of too
Oh.
long. For some
Mm.
people, they want to cut it down. Like I'll go to somebody distributor, and they were like, okay, we like it, but we're going to drop it down to 2.5. Well, you're losing part of my concept, because
Mm.
part of the way I write is like I like to have time shifts where part of the song might
Mm.
slow down and come back. It
Mhm.
kind of like jazz, jazz does that. And then
Yes,
and when
yes.
you have this modern tech kind of world where nobody wants to let a song do that, they
Mhm.
one beat and then not
Mhm.
allow it to shift to other beats.
Mhm.
What do you think about that? I mean, do you because if you're coming from like a jazz or hip
Mhm.
hop, sometimes it's a steady beat, but do you like to play with like things that are kind of you know multiple beat styles within the same song or different like timings?
Well, I I'm kind of interested in trying to have like a different beat in a one song, but I still need to explore how I can develop the beat in a one song. Yeah, but
Yeah,
I
yeah,
want to try. Yeah.
yeah. Just like I think like if you're in a club and you're doing like the DJ type of thing, you
Mhm.
have some ability to do that in a club.
Mhm.
Like if you're in a club, you could have like a 15-minute song that's like designed for people
Mm.
to dance, and you
Yeah.
could go
True.
through different. You drop it and then go slow and then come back and
Mhm.
speed up. So you could in a
Mhm.
live
Yeah.
setting
True.
do
Yeah.
that. It's just like the problem is it's not. They used to allow that to happen when you released a song.
Mhm.
And then now you can't, when
Mhm.
you release the song, you can only keep it in the 2 minute,
Mhm.
structure.
Yeah.
Um,
True.
and so that doesn't give you enough, if you're
Mhm.
thinking about it, if you do song 2 minutes, how time to do the key change or the
Mhm.
or the rhythm change. There's
Yeah.
not enough
Yeah.
time to let it like develop. It's kind of
Mm.
like classical music. You think about it in terms of the movements, like old school,
Yeah.
old school music from the 70s and
Mhm.
60s. It's very
Mhm.
common to see that, to hear that.
Yeah. True. Especially like a key change.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
just
I
the
feel like yeah.
yeah, or even like having an intro,
Mhm.
right, and then having the chorus and the melody, and then having like a fill, and
Mhm.
then going, and then at the end of the song having an outro. Then a lot of songs today they don't allow you to have the intro or the
True.
or the fill or the outro. They don't allow you to have that as a structure.
Yeah. It makes me sometimes limit my expression. I know like um I want to make my music get viral, so I'm kind of focus on how
On
to
the
make
beat.
a
Yeah.
music, yeah, on the beat and also with considering trend.
Mm-hmm.
So I also think about how people wanna share my music on the social media. So that's why recently I don't have a much intro and the outro, and I try to make a music less than 3 minutes, but it makes me it make me limit my
Yeah,
expression.
it's a
So
lot of limitations
yes,
in order to
sometimes I
get,
wanna
yeah.
ignore. Yeah.
Yeah, well, to go viral, you do have to kind of be, in this kind of real TikTok world, right? And so in the
Yes.
real TikTok world, where somebody's
Mm-hmm.
doing, you got to get the hook in 30 seconds, right?
Yes.
And so that
Yes.
doesn't give you a lot of time. Back in the day when people listened to vinyl and
Yeah.
and 8 track, they listened
Mm-hmm.
to the whole side A. So
Mm-hmm.
you're not talking about like 30 seconds. They're willing to listen to like 30 minutes or
Yeah.
20 minutes. And so the attention span today
Mm-hmm.
is that you got to first 15 seconds. And
Yeah.
so, so that doesn't give you a lot of time to be experimental, other than that maybe
Yes.
that initial beat is
Mm-hmm.
experimental, but it's repetitive. Um,
Yes.
and so,
True.
as a musician, eventually, as a producer, you're like, okay, if I can build enough of a fan base, then I'm going to do something more experimental because I kind of don't want to be stuck in that lane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
But I've never tried to be in on the trends. I'm more
Mm-hmm.
of an experimental artist than I do because I do the podcast. I get a little room to
Mm-hmm.
have like a multiple career type of thing because I'm a podcaster. I can go and do experimental music, but it might not necessarily be that as popular as it could be because my podcast will kind of supplement my experimentation.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's cool. So I see that you actually in your latest photo that we're going to use for the podcast, you've got that cool MIDI keyboard.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah, so I mean, you do you prefer to write with that or write on the computer?
Right with MIDI keyboard, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah. So you like to be able to actually put the chords down and actually play out the melody rather than do
Mm.
it on the grid.
Yes, because I learned how to make music with piano when I took music theory class at the college.
Okay.
So rather than only computer, it's way easier for me to use the keyboard to figure out the
Yeah.
what kind of chord progression sounds really smooth and better.
Yeah, I like to use I mean I have all my Rolands and my Moog keyboards and stuff and I really like the feel of a keyboard. Um,
Yeah.
even when I drum I have like my Roland set up that it turns into a drum set
Mm-hmm.
and I'll finger drum the patterns on my keyboard. Now
Oh, that's
lately
cool. Mm-hmm.
gotten into using my Akai Force with like the 64 pads
Mm-hmm.
to do that finger drumming
Mm-hmm.
because the one thing I found is like on the pad on a matrix format when you're doing something on a pad, the
Mm-hmm.
one thing as an experimental musician that's kind of cool is like a piano has got that structure, but
Mm-hmm.
if you go and put your piano through like a 64 pad structure,
Mm-hmm.
you can do
Mm-hmm.
stuff that you can't do on the piano. You
Oh.
could go into uh, um, actual phrases that you couldn't physically do. You'd have to kind of
Mm-hmm.
overlay them. But when you have that
Mm-hmm.
64 key matrix, you can
Mm-hmm.
cross into lanes that you would never be able to do physically on a piano.
Wow. Oh
And,
yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
so pose something that would not actually be physically capable possible on a
Mm-hmm.
piano, but you could do it in real time on that pad. And so there's
Oh. Mm-hmm.
some arrangements I'll do that way just because I can do
Mm-hmm.
stuff that I couldn't do on the piano.
Oh, that's really cool. I should try one.
Yeah,
Because
it's a cool way to think about it. Like you could
yeah,
try
because
like
my MIDI keyboard also had not 64 pads, but only 8 pads. But I
mm,
still can try the way you
yeah
do. Yeah,
yeah
I should do that.
the matrix pad structure is a kind of like it's really cool when you
Mm-hmm.
think about electronic music because a lot of original electronic synthesizers didn't have keyboards.
Mm.
They had just like sequencers
Mm-hmm.
and then people would experiment with the sequencer and
Mm-hmm.
drive it with like an LFO or drive it with a random voltage generator. And so
Mm-hmm.
you get all these weird rhythms that weren't necessarily composed in a traditional way. They were coming
Mm-hmm.
off of like an envelope generator or being driven by an oscillator or driven by an LFO. And so
Mm-hmm.
you have totally different perspective
Mm-hmm.
of like this strange, I call it like strange modulation.
Mm-hmm.
Like you could have a modulation source
Mm-hmm.
triggering your rhythm, right? And it could
Oh.
be random. And
Mm-hmm.
every day you look at it, you could get this random beat that like you're never going to get a copyright violation because the synth is giving you this randomness
Mm-hmm.
that is highly unlikely anybody else came up with it. Um,
Oh. Mm-hmm.
so it gives you a way to create very unique beats. And I've actually run like LFOs to drive an analog drum machine. Like I use a low
Mm-hmm.
frequency oscillator to drive an analog drum machine.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Oh.
if I set it to like a sine wave and then I
Mm-hmm.
set the random voltage generator, it will create a beat
Mm-hmm.
that is very random. It's almost like a person was playing it, but the machine is creating this very randomized beat.
Oh.
And it's a really cool way to kind of come up with something if you don't want to be stuck within like
Mm-hmm.
having a quantized beat. If you
Mm-hmm.
want to go more organic and use like an analog synthesized driven beat through like subtractive synthesis.
Yeah,
And
sounds
if you,
like that would make interesting unique beat.
yeah, it's a different way to
Mm-hmm.
do it. It's not what people are typically doing. It's
Mm-hmm.
kind of stuff like Pete Townsend did with like Barbara O'Reilly or Who Are
Mm-hmm.
You? He
Mm-hmm.
actually used an envelope follower on the ARP 2600 to drive his guitar through a
Oh.
synthesizer to create that beat that you hear on Who Are You?
Oh. Oh,
That
that's really cool. I should check the song.
Yeah, it's just a very kind of, it kind of blips and bops. It's kind of a weird modulation beat that
Mm-hmm.
actually is a guitar going through a synthesizer. Like the synthesizer
Oh.
becomes the effect pedal. You use like a random voltage generator and an envelope
Oh.
follower that take his
Mm-hmm.
guitar and run it through an ARP 2600. And then that
Oh.
actually creates this very randomized beat.
Uh-huh.
And he's famous for making these weird synth beats that are on a lot of Who songs, like "Who Are You" and "Won't
Mm-hmm.
Get Fooled Again," and then Barbara O'Reilly. And so,
Mm-hmm.
as a synthesizer player, I've always looked at him because he was a guitar player that got into synths
Mm-hmm.
and then approached it different than a piano player because
Mm-hmm.
he's approaching a synthesizer from the perspective of a guitar player.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like when
Mm-hmm.
Eddie Van Halen did Jump. And like he's
Mm-hmm.
a guitar player, but he created this synth pattern on Jump that
Mm-hmm.
is iconic. And it was like it may be a synthesizer player wouldn't have come up with that. There are examples where you're coming from a different instrument and you approach another instrument and you come at it with a different perspective.
Yeah. Wow, sounds like a lot of process, but it will be fun
Yeah,
to
it's just
make,
cool.
yeah,
Yeah, to think
more
about it. Like,
unique. Yeah.
yeah, it just gives you different ways to come at your music. It's like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah,
because you're already talking about jazz and R&B.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so there's other types of things you can get, like the deep experimental processes, like
Yes.
like found
Yes.
sounds, or
Mm-hmm.
getting into like different types of synthesis that are more experimental, like wave folding, and
Mm-hmm.
all kinds of different ways of coming at the sound. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but I think everything's cool today. I think like you could do a 1920 song.
Mm-hmm.
It has like a
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
1920s beat you could
Yeah.
pull.
More
You
more
could,
variation. Yeah.
yeah, you can just do whatever you feel like, and if you can get it to work,
Yeah, yeah,
and it's under 3 minutes,
yeah.
he can still get away with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I should try once.
Yeah, it's like a flapper beat, like a 20s flapper beat. Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's kind of cool because so some French bands are doing that. They're kind of really into the 1920s, and my
Mm-hmm.
daughter was showing me these French bands that are electronic, but they have these 1920s like
Whoa.
beats, and I was like, wow,
Whoa.
that's very interesting because it's
Mm-hmm.
like they came at it with a modern tech, but the beat is coming from like the 1920s.
Oh.
It's a different sound, a different rhythm pattern than what you hear today,
Mm-hmm.
and it was like
Yeah, that would be. Yeah.
it's kind of cool what you can do with it. But it would be
Mm-hmm.
interesting to hear like a different cultural perspective on that. Like you take that rhythm and then you have Japanese like language on it, and we're like, whoa, what
Mm-hmm.
would that sound like? Would that be cool?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, I think it's just fun being musicians today, even though there's all these difficulties. Do you still
Mm-hmm.
find it difficult because of Corona to actually function, or have you found a good way to actually work?
Well, actually, like when I started making beats and then provide my beats to other artists, I already start with everything by online. So actually, the corona condition doesn't affect my music activity, but just well, the in Japan, the corona situation little bit get worse,
Mm-hmm.
but people don't care about it anymore. So for me, it's getting back to normal.
Mm-hmm.
So I can say like a corona doesn't bother me
Well,
at
yeah.
all.
Well,
Yeah.
I think a lot. I mean, well, we have a lot of vaccines and I'm boosted,
Hmm.
and so
Yeah.
like you can get corona. People are getting it, but they're not dying. So
Hmm.
so they're not getting hospitalized as much as they used to. So it's kind of started
Yes.
getting to be like the flu.
Yes. Yes.
So then it's something that you can survive and it's not as bad. And so
Hmm.
as people are getting more like willing to go back to somewhat normal.
Hmm.
But now we've got a problem with the monkeypox.
Yeah, monkeypox just came into Japan, so I'm kind of little bit worried about, but
Yeah, that one's a little trickier because that one
yeah.
actually you have to wear gloves and a mask again,
Ah,
and it's like it's kind of a pain.
Oh no.
But and as a musician, it's like it's hard to play my keyboard with gloves. I can't play my
Yeah.
keyboard with gloves.
No, no.
It doesn't work. It doesn't like I tried to play one time I bought like electronic gloves, right,
Whoa.
that had like LEDs. Because I wanted to kind of look cool, but then it's like it wouldn't work, so I had to actually cut out the tips
Oh no.
so that I could actually play like the
Mm-hmm.
keyboard. And so I got it to work because I figured out how to, at least have my fingers come out at the tips because you couldn't really,
Mm.
play the keyboard without your fingers actually being able to touch the keys, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yes,
But
true.
it's
Mm-hmm.
like I was trying to, it's like, well, my stage presence can't be
Mm-hmm.
something that deters from the quality of the sound.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's all
Mm-hmm.
kinds of things. I used to play in New York a lot. I haven't been able
Mm-hmm.
to do that. I
Mm-hmm.
just been doing everything online. But I'm
Mm-hmm.
a more of an online producer myself. Like I'm a bedroom producer. I got all this stuff, all this equipment, and
Mm-hmm.
I've been
Yeah,
able to kind of
same.
just be able to produce because
Mm-hmm.
I think if you're a producer, you're in a good position. I think the biggest problem I've seen when I've talked to people are like rock bands. Like
Yeah.
a traditional band with a drummer, a
Mm-hmm.
bass player, a guitar player,
Mm.
they've had a real hard time because a lot of times
Mm-hmm.
when they record, they all have to be together,
Yeah, true.
especially the drummer. Drummers have a hard
Mm.
time
Oh yeah.
trying
Mm-hmm.
to do the drum tracks
Yeah,
from their
true.
house, right?
Yeah.
You have to actually send them the tape of everything
Mm-hmm.
else, and then they've got to try to sync to the tape.
Yeah.
And then even a lot of times they'll say, "Well, I can't do it. I need the band to actually play it live
Mm-hmm.
for me to actually do it right."
Yeah.
So that's been like a big problem for bands that are kind of in a live act type of structure.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're a singer songwriter or a
Mm-hmm.
producer,
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of times we've been able to kind of get through it.
Yes. Yeah, same.
So you've got a lot of stuff in the pipelines. Do you have things planned out all the way to the end of this year, going into next year, or just this year?
Uh, mm, can you repeat again?
Or do you
Sorry.
have enough? Do you have a lot of projects that are actually going into 2023?
Just so far, just until the end of this year.
Into this year? Okay.
Yeah.
Because I know there's some artists like if they have like big plans and they actually have things that like they're actually are targeting for like next year already. They've already
Mm-hmm.
started. Are you doing that, or you just got it planned just to the end of
Yeah,
this
I'm
year?
just planning what I'm gonna do for the next year.
Are you ever? Well, I mean, festivals are a big thing for musicians to make money, and I know you're a producer. Have you
Mm-hmm.
ever thought of trying to see if you could get into like a festival as a producer, like doing a performance like you did on the radio?
No, I never consider about that.
Yeah, it's just another way to get an audience. Is if
Mm-hmm.
people see you in one of these big festival situations.
Mm-hmm.
Like they have in Los Angeles, those big EDM festivals, and
Oh.
and they
Mm-hmm.
have Tyler the Creator has his big Camp Flag now,
Oh.
where he has like a lot of different artists, not just hip
Mm-hmm.
hop. He has like EDM and producers
Yeah.
and trance and all kind. It just that seems to be a way to actually connect to a really big audience, and you actually get a pretty good payday
Mm-hmm.
from performances like that because you have these big crowds. Some of these festivals are like 300,000 people, and
Whoa.
and then the ticket prices get people get a piece of that.
Mm-hmm.
So like you could be a small act and you can make $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 from one U.S. dollar one
Whoa.
performance at one of these big festivals. You know,
Mm-hmm.
with that's not it's not big money compared to the big acts. They're making hundreds of
Mm-hmm.
thousands of dollars. But if you're a small
Mm-hmm.
act and you make $5,000 from one performance, that's pretty good.
Yeah. I should research about the gigs, the big gigs, and then for that I need to build my music more, I guess.
Well, I think your music is really
Mm.
cool. I think it's probably trying to figure out how you do it. I
Yeah,
think
how
I
to
think
promote. Yeah.
how to actually perform it. Like it's like
Yeah.
either using your MIDI keyboard or some kind of matrix, like some kind of
Mm-hmm.
pad control mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of different companies that make the MIDI controllers that
Mm-hmm.
aren't just the keyboard, but like the more pad based ones. And then you have
Mm-hmm.
like Novation and Akai. They all make these controllers
Mm-hmm.
that allow you to perform like a DJ, but it's not a CDJ. It's
Mm-hmm.
more like you have way more control over your sound
Mm-hmm.
because you can actually have the whole project, and then like I said, you can like have rows of clips,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can change the order. in
Mhm.
which they go. You can change the BPM. You have total control over it. And a lot of them have touch screens where you
Mhm.
could go in and actually change effects live. You
Mhm.
could change like what filters you're using live.
Mhm.
And then when you go to play, you have a lot more choices than just like a CDJ has a lot of capability, but these
Mhm.
things have more control over the sound.
Mhm.
And they actually to the point where you actually could play, you
Mhm.
can mute a track and then play a track
Mhm.
with your fingers.
Oh,
On the
yeah.
pads, you could actually play a rhythm
Mhm.
or you could play a melody. Um, so you could introduce some like live improvisation in the same way you
Mm.
do on a MIDI keyboard.
Mm. I see. I should practice for that.
Yeah, then you could
Mhm.
actually do performances, and you don't even have to sing. You could be kind of like an EDM
Mm.
DJ. You could have a
Mhm.
lot of sampled vocals and stuff. So
Mhm.
you could actually have all your vocals like sampled, right? And then you could
Mm.
just kick them off as clips.
Mhm.
You can like, change where they are. So then you don't
Mhm.
have to have the kind of worry about the stage fright of like singing. You could actually have your vocals already there. And you can
Mhm.
still do a performance and people are still hearing you. You're just not doing it live. You're just kicking them off in
Oh.
different positions, in the song.
Mhm. Oh, that would be a good idea.
Well, I just love to see you
Mhm.
out there because your work is so good. It's like cool to see
Mhm.
see you
Yeah, I'll
do
try. Yeah.
it. Well, I just thank you for being on the show, because I think
Yeah.
it's really awesome. We're going to put this together. So that we got this point. It looks like,
Mhm.
it was like some kind of issue with the connectivity, but we got it. So let everybody know this is going to be on Spotify audio podcast. Once we get it together, it will also be on 11 other platforms, including iTunes. And we will actually have a YouTube version. It will be kind of like a lyric video. It'll go out so it actually is on YouTube too. And we'll get you that as soon as it's out there. All
Yeah,
right.
thank you. Yeah. Thank you for the time today.
Yeah, I like talking to you. I think you're great. I think everybody go out and check out Rick Life and go on all the platforms. Um, Spotify, you're on there. You're on pretty much all the streaming platforms, right? Or you're like
Yeah,
on
yes.
iTunes and everything.
So
Yeah.
YouTube, yeah, Apple Music, and also please follow my Twitter and Instagram.
Do you have a YouTube channel?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, yeah. So
The
I
people
always
can see the YouTube channel from my bio link
oh,
on the Instagram.
yeah,
Yep.
I always encourage people to always subscribe to every artist YouTube channel. Make sure you favorite the playlist of songs because that's how we get paid. So they'll go
Mm-hmm.
and put them on playlist.
Mm-hmm.
Tell your friends. You make sure you subscribe everywhere you can, like everywhere you can, download
Mm-hmm.
everywhere you can, because that's how we actually get credit for what we're doing. So thank
Mm-hmm.
you very much, and check out Rick Life everywhere. And remember to subscribe to our YouTube, and we'll talk to you again next time you have some really cool news.
Yes, sure. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Yeah, bye.